Okay, Jeremiah 36. Jehoiakim burns Jeremiah's scroll. Remember the change of my voice. In the 4th year of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah, this word came to Jeremiah from the Lord. Take a scroll and write on it all the words I have spoken to you concerning Israel, Judah, and all the other nations from the time I began speaking to you to the reign of Josiah till now. Perhaps when the people of Judah hear about every disaster I plan to inflict on them, they will turn from their wicked ways. Then I will forgive their wickedness and their sin. So Jeremiah called Baruch, son of Neriah, and while Jeremiah dictated all the words the Lord had spoken to him, Baruch wrote them on the scroll. Then Jeremiah told Baruch, I am restricted. I am not allowed to go to the Lord's temple. So you go to the house of the Lord on a day of fasting and read to the people from the scroll the words of the Lord that you wrote as I dictated. Read them to all the people of Judah who come in from their towns. Perhaps they will bring their petition before the Lord, and will each turn from their wicked ways, for the anger and wrath pronounced against this people by the Lord is great. So again, they're supposed to turn from their wickedness, and they don't. Especially in this day and age, if they're still labeled a Jew and they haven't decided to be a Christian, they didn't turn from rejecting the Messiah. Baruch, son of Neriah, did everything Jeremiah the prophet told him to do. At the Lord's temple he read the words of the Lord from the scroll. In the 9th month of the 5th year of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah, a time of fasting before the Lord was proclaimed for all the people in Jerusalem and those who had come from the towns of Judah. From the room of Gemariah, son of Shaphan, the people at the Lord's temple, the words of Jeremiah from the room of Gemariah, son of Shaphan, the people at the Lord's temple read the words of Jeremiah from the scroll. When Micaiah, son of Gemariah, the son of Shaphan, heard all the words of the Lord from the scroll, he went down to the secretary's room in the royal palace where all the officials were sitting. Elishama, the secretary, Delaiah, son of Shemaiah, Elnathan, son of Akbor, Gemariah, son of Shaphan, Zedekiah, son of Hananiah, and all the other officials. After Micaiah told them everything he had heard Baruch read to the people from the scroll, all the officials sent Jehoiada, son of Nethaniah, the son of Shelemiah, the son of Cushi, to say to Baruch, bring the scroll from which you have read to the people and read it to us. So Baruch read it to them. When they heard all these words, they looked at each other in fear and said to Baruch, we must report all these words to the king. Then they asked Baruch, tell us, how did you come to write all this? Did Jeremiah dictate it? Yes, Baruch replied, he dictated all these words to me and I wrote them in ink on the scroll. Then the officials said to Baruch, you and Jeremiah go and hide, don't let anyone know where you are. After they put the scroll in the room of Elishama, the secretary, they went to the king in the courtyard and reported everything to him. The king sent Jehoiada to get the scroll, and Jehoiada brought it from the room of Elishama, the secretary, and read to the king and all the officials standing beside him. Obviously, it doesn't matter who these people are. It doesn't matter how you say their name. There's a bunch of worms who rape kids who think that matters more than doing God's work. Never forget that. Never forget that it's sick to listen to them and to go to their churches and to follow them. Never, ever, ever forget that. Okay, and never forget it's sick to follow the atheists or any other movement either, because they work together with these other people to make the world a piece of shit, and they're in overlapping social clubs and secret societies. Just horrible things that they do. Horrible, horrible things. Okay. So the king sent Jehoiada to get the scroll, and Jehoiada brought it from the room of Elishama the secretary and read it to the king and all the officials standing beside him. It was the 9th month, and the king was sitting in the winter apartment with a fire burning in the fire pot in front of him. When Jehudi had read 3 or 4 columns of the scroll, the king cut them off with a scribe's knife and threw them into the fire pot until the entire scroll was burned in the fire. The king and all his attendants who heard all these words showed no fear, nor did they tear their clothes. Even though Elnathan, Delaiah, and Gemariah urged the king not to burn the scroll, he would not listen to him. Instead, the king commanded Jerahmeel, a son of the king, Sariah, son of Azrael, and Shelemiah, son of Abdil, to arrest Baruch the scribe and Jeremiah the prophet, but the Lord had hidden them. After the king burned the scroll containing the words that Baruch had written at Jeremiah's dictation, the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah after the king burned the scroll containing... Okay, no, I read that already. I actually typed that twice. Okay. So again, it'd be easier for me just to summarize the story. But since everyone's riding a freaking technicality goat and they don't live the true spirit of God, it causes me to have to read through all these books and say, hey, this is where you're wrong. Okay, and it's pathetic that people didn't just look at me and say, he's the top martial artist, I should follow him, instead of all these pedophiles and these people looking identical to him and all these other people who are just completely in rebellion. They should just listen to me the first time and just, and have, work, type things up for me while I dictate and write a new book that's to the point. And my book is much better than the Bible, mind you. Take another scroll and write on it all the words that were on the first scroll, which Jehoiakim, king of Judah, burned up. Also tell Jehoiakim, king of Judah, this is what the Lord says. You burned the scroll and said, why did you write it on it that the king of Babylon would certainly come and destroy this land and wipe from it both man and beast? Therefore, this is what the Lord says about Jehoiakim, king of Judah. He will have no one to sit on the throne of David. His body will be thrown out and exposed to the heat by day and frost by night. I will punish him and his children and his attendants for their wickedness. I'll bring on them and those living in Jerusalem and the people of Judah every disaster I pronounced against them, because they have not listened. So Jeremiah took another scroll and gave it to the scribe Baruch, son of Neriah. And as Jeremiah dictated, Baruch wrote on it all the words of the scroll that Jehoiakim, king of Judah, had burned in the fire, and many similar words added to them. Now, you think the whites, Jews, and LGBT community who were in the area, right? They were in the Mesopotamian area. They were in the Southern European area. They were in North Africa to some degree. Okay, after they haven't listened to me all these times, they chose to follow pedophiles, mass murderers, people who sell fentanyl to kids, people who are lying to them in social clubs, who work with them, who split the pie, government corruption, on and on, all these rapists, all these horrible people. And they're believing them and they're following them. Okay, you think that it's not over after my flesh dies? It is over after my flesh dies. It is pathetic that they didn't rally and obey God through me. Instead, they act like some spoiled brats with not a speck of heart or care for their family's souls. They assume that they're on this planet for no reason. They said stupid stuff like, prove it's true. Can you imagine being some bootlicking fool who argues that you need for me to prove to you that there's a God definitively, when the core of the test is be good for goodness sake? Okay, and it doesn't matter if there's a God or not. What kind of filth doesn't have a moral cause? What kind of filth cheats me out of my right to live? Like, you don't need to believe in God to rally and obey God through me. You just need to know that righteousness is greater than being a worm, and that lead your kids in righteousness, not some worm trying to save his flesh like some punk.